I'll tell you what, it's their fault for not having bloody cup holders in the dash. But it is, oh no, it's a kangaroo.
That is a huge kangaroo.
Oh God, it slipped. Oh no, foot down a little bit. Here we go. It's a bit wet. Come on,
God.
baby. Come on.
Oh, it's slowing down. Come on. Whoa, dude, I don't remember getting under seconds in a Ranger.
Bro. Hey,
I'm rolling.
Jacob.
I'm rolling.
What are we driving today?
It's a bloody Ford Ranger Black Edition.
It's the Black Edition. More specifically, it's the base model. You see, guys, we've now reviewed, I think, pretty much every Ford Ranger on the market.
Pretty much.
We've said that it's top of the class, right? In pretty much every facet, it is top of the class. However, will our minds be changed by the poverty spec version of the Ford Ranger?
It's not quite. It's the Black Edition, bro.
Which is based on the base model, and it just adds essentially a black pack to the car. Kind of just feels like there's all these spare parts lying around, you chuck them on and therefore you get this. But anyway, trust me, it's still very much a base model, but it's got very interesting pricing. You see, you can get into one of these for $57,990 drive away because they have a special drive away deal on them. And that means that they are essentially the same price as the non-black pack version.
How does that work?
I don't know. But it also gets a bunch of actually pretty good upgrades over the XL that it's based on, which makes it much better value. I don't know, it's just really confusing pricing. But anyway, today we're gonna take you for a full review of the base model Ford Ranger. Obviously, you can get this thing as a single cab, rear wheel drive only. But of course, we have the dual cab with 4x4, but it is the cheapest dual cab Ranger you can buy. It really is the POV spec, as you'll see in a lot of ways. But in other ways, it's actually quite surprisingly good still. So we'll take you for an exterior tour. What's changed with this Black Edition? Only 1,500 of these available.
Yeah, bloody getting quick.
Getting quick. We're gonna check out its practicality, look at its interior as well. How base spec is this base spec? And there are quite a lot of poverty spec things inside of it for sure. Then we're going to launch this thing because it has a better engine than a Ford Ranger TREMOR, which technically has the same engine, but with emissions restrictions on it. And then we're going to drive it, give it lots of sauce, and then we'll give you our final thoughts. Should you buy a base model Ford Ranger? Jacob?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Alrighty, Daddy Jacob.
I like the front.
Let's talk about why this thing doesn't really look like a base model in some ways, but really does in other ways. First of all, as part of this black pack, you get a blacked out grille. Weirdly, they didn't black out the Ford badge.
Yeah, that's a bit of a miss in my opinion.
Bit weird, especially because they add that for the Sport, which is a couple of trims above. It couldn't have been that hard to swap a badge, could it? So it's not a full black pack, I guess. What doesn't make this front end look a lot more aggressive are these fully halogen headlights.
Makes you look a lot more aggressive.
Frankly, at almost $60,000 drive away, it is ridiculous that it comes with halogen lights. It is not that expensive to change halogens to LEDs. Well, I'm just really disappointed to see that at this price point, frankly.
You're not angry, you're disappointed.
I'm disappointed, especially when you can get like a GWM Canon Alpha Ute in like top trim diesel for the same price as this. That comes with matrix LEDs, something just crazy. You do have a radar here that is for your semi-autonomous driving. It doesn't get the full safety suite. And actually, if you want to learn everything that this car gets and more, head to CarSauce.com. We have a full review out on this now. Otherwise, it's even in base model white.
I mean, look, I actually don't mind the white with the black pack, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, that looks sick. What do you guys think about the halogen light specifically? Check out the side.
Let's do it.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Jacob. If you price this thing on their website, it actually works out to be about $1,800 to almost $5,000 cheaper, depending on which state you live, versus the equivalent Ranger XL with a bi-turbo engine.
Which is crazy, because you get more in this car.
Yeah, it makes me think that perhaps the XL isn't the best value cheap budget ute. But anyway, let's talk about what this changes, because frankly, it's awesome. You swap out the steel wheels for these 17-inch alloy wheels. They're also wrapped in good tires, Bridgestone Jeweler all-terrain tires. So
yeah, but they're the old version.
Oh, there is a 002 version, isn't there, Jacob?
Yeah, there is.
Jacob went to the launch of those tires.
Yeah, very fancy.
Regardless, that is a massive upgrade.
Yeah, it actually from the side doesn't look like a base spec at all.
Not at all, actually looks pretty good. This has the bi-turbo engine as standard, though you can get a single turbo in the XL. I wouldn't recommend that though. Still, no badging on the side anymore. That seems to be a bit of a cost-saving thing across the Ford Ranger range. Scratchy black plastic here. You do not get any sort of keyless entry or go, but you do have, don't worry, central locking through the key. Here, you get these new side steps, which is always good to have, handy. No privacy glass as you would expect for a base model. The workhorse. You have these you have a long-legged sports bar apparently.
It's a long leg on a short man.
Sounds a bit weird, I should say. Of course, you get leaf spring suspension. We'll go through the payload in a moment, but it is still very, very good, especially when you consider that this is the entry model. Usually these have the best payload because they're also the lightest. And thankfully, you still get a side step, which is nice to see.
Very nice.
Let's talk about the bum. Alrighty, let's talk about the bum on the Black Edition.
It's a bloody Ranger, bro.
That's what I imagine you sound like if you're buying one of these. You have these slightly LED lights, but otherwise halogen bulbs in the back. At least it's partially LED. Too bad the back of the car is far less important than the front in terms of lighting. But anyway, you have the Ford badge here, again, not blacked out. You've got a reverse camera. It feels a little bit lower quality than a regular. I don't know what they've done there. You have a plastic bumper here, not that it really matters. Ranger embossed into the back. Up on top of the tub, you're gonna see these little latches here. It's so you can actually do a bit of work from the back, which is pretty cool, actually. And otherwise, Jacob, look at this.
Oh, effortless. Effortless and easy.
So it's got a torsion bar that runs underneath. It makes it really light. That's just good for if your kids are coming into the back or whatever. You also get a drop-in bed liner here, which is good to see. It means you don't have to option that at the dealership or pay extra for it. It's usually quite expensive, so it's good to see it here. You've also got these movable tie-down points as part of that black edition. You've got a 12-volt socket. It's actually quite useful.
Very, very practical. There's a reason why the Ford Ranger is so popular.
And that reason also includes the fact that it gets a high payload, just under 1 ton at 994 kilograms. And I'll put the tub specs up on the screen now, but it's essentially class leading. So very, very good. So yeah, Jacob.
Pretty bloody good.
Still a workhorse. Let's check out the interior.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, daddy. Ooh,
Oh,
Jacob.
that's actually a decent thonk.
Decent thonk, a little bit tinny, and there's some build quality things in here that really should have been ironed out by this point. But let's talk about the interior because frankly, really quite like it.
I think for a tradie spec car, it's actually really premium.
It feels really nice in here. Obviously, you have scratchy materials absolutely everywhere. You do have some nice soft touch where it matters, but for example here, not quite as bad as what you'd find in a like Toyota HiLux SR that we reviewed. And
yeah, that'll like actively try to hurt your ass.
Yeah, that's just genuinely bad. And the design overall is actually really nice. I love these gray inserts. It doesn't feel like a poverty spec interior, honestly. And there's some aspects of this that I actually like more than the Ford Ranger Tremor that I recently reviewed literally yesterday at the launch. For example, you got this nice open area here. Sure, there's no wireless charging pad, but you do get a fast charging USB-C port, USB-A port, and you've also got under here quite a lot of storage space and a 12-volt socky-wocky. So I quite like this layout more. It feels less cluttered. There are other things in here that I don't love. For example, there is a massive panel gap here, and it just, the whole thing shifts when you touch it. So it's kind of everywhere throughout this cabin. And for some reason, Ford have had this issue for a while. In a few of their cars, the Mustang was quite bad, and yet it just isn't great. It doesn't make any rattles or squeaks, which is good. It's only done 2,500 kilometers, so I guess time will tell. Let me know in the comment section, if you have a Ford Ranger, have you ever noticed these things, or have you had any issues like that? Other things that are just annoying and clearly like cost saving or just done to differentiate this is, for example, this, it's hollow behind here, but you can't open it up like you can in a Wildtrak, for example. This area here, it's a nice little storage area, but it's not at all rubberized. So if you put something there, it's just gonna fly out. The Ford Ranger Tremor, for example, that had some rubber coating to it. It's a slight expense in plastic, but really not much. Also the cup holders here in the dash, well, they would be cup holders in higher trims, but you have that here. So maybe you can aftermarket that, but you shouldn't have to. It should just be there.
Yeah, it's really a tiny thing, right?
So small, like cents in plastic. So they do it to differentiate the models, but I just don't like it, frankly. Obviously, other base model things in here, the floor mats are like a vinyl, and they're designed so that you can just literally wash them off. It's pretty simple. There's no carpet in here because this is supposed to be a work truck at the end of the day. I actually like this shifter more. It's like a physical shifter, way better than the regular.
Way more intuitive.
Yeah, and the other one can sometimes like glitch out. It won't let you like shift gears sometimes. This doesn't.
Yeah. But the only cool thing with the other one is when you turn the car off, it just kind of rolls itself forward.
Which is a cool nifty thing, but yeah, you don't really need it, do you? You have your four-wheel drive selector here, 2 high, 4 low. This is a part-time four-wheel drive. You've also got a rear-locking diff, which is good to see, and hill descent control there as well. A manual handbrake, rejoice, feels good. The glove box here, it's actually pretty large. The door bins as well, actually pretty large too. Technology, this is still class leading. So even though you get this smaller 10.1 inch display, and actually, as we found out, Jacob, it refreshes at 50 hertz and not 60 hertz like the other screens. Ruins camera shots, so sorry about that. But it is really snappy, responsive, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. We used to have a lot of glitches, especially when these first launched, with it just not connecting or like cutting out, micro cutouts. It was so annoying. But they fixed that and it just works super duper well. Connected to a 4-speaker sound system.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best, but it's also, once you get the sound settings right, it's actually all right.
Yeah, and we'll put that on the screen now, but yes, you can make it sound a little bit better, but don't expect too much, frankly. And then up in front of you, you get a digital instrument display, and like the infotainment display, it's not the biggest you can get in the Ford Ranger lineup, but it actually shows all the same information, like heaps of stuff on there. So yeah, just great to see, frankly. It works well, you can customize it how you want, and it's just not in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's enough.
It's enough. The steering wheel, of course, it is plastic, but it is not the worst plastic I've ever held onto. And you've got buttons to control everything, including your cruise control on the left. On the right-hand side is your multimedia stuff. You've got some reminders of base model. You got a manual mirror here. It doesn't really matter. It's just one of the things you notice. And then we have the seats. Now, yes, it's a base model cloth seats, but they're actually really, really comfortable. They come with lumbar support, at least for the driver. And yes, it's manually adjusting, but really comfy seats.
You know how I would describe this interior? Better than a HiLux.
I think that's a given. Certainly getting in here, it is like the best tradie spec base model interior. You know what I mean? It feels the most premium, probably second to an Amarok, but pretty much there. And it is cheaper than the equivalent Amarok. One annoying thing though, you do get a couple of cup holders, but it does de-lid your coffee cups because they're actually quite deep.
Well, it's your fault for getting tiny little coffees.
I'll tell you what, it's their fault for not having bloody cup holders in the dash.
Very true.
Bastards. Let's check out the back seats.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, let's start with lifting this up. And then you're gonna notice quite a lot of storage space under there.
It's actually pretty decent.
It's pretty decent. And then of course you can drop the top if you want to have like a flat loading area. One of the most amount of storage spaces in this class, that's for sure. Getting in, very easy. Now, I'm 5'11". These are pretty much the smallest seats you can get in a Ranger just because they're the base seats. Don't have much leg room. Toe room though is pretty good. Headroom as well is very good. Obviously scratchy materials in the back, but that's pretty much across the entire range. No air vents, which is definitely a cost-saving thing. A 12-volt socket, which is good, but I would have wished that it had like a USB-A or USB-C port. No map pockets here, again, base spec, but you do get one on the passenger side at least. No center armrest, that is deleted, but you do get the nice cloth seats back here as well, and it's actually quite a comfortable place to sit.
It just feels like a lot of these things that it's missing is a deliberate choice to differentiate this from the other higher grades.
100%, and I just feel like if they could add it in, it would add so much value with very little cost to them, and maybe they would remain #1 seller. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
When you got competition like the BYD Shark, which I've made a full video on, you should check that out. You've got the GWM Canon Alpha, these value-packed utes that are pretty much cheaper than this in base spec. Yeah, it makes you think twice about where you put your money. Speaking of, if you want to buy one of these or any other new car, head to carsauce.com/buy. We have a dedicated team of buyers who go out to thousands of dealers to get you the absolute best price on your next car. It is a totally free service for you because we charge the dealers a fixed fee, and that also means we negotiate the hardest to get you the best price possible. Best of all, we can source cars from literally anywhere in Australia because we have thousands of dealers. So if you want to buy one of these limited black edition utes or anything else, head to carsauce.com/buy because it's really a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you? All right, let's launch it.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, friend.
Two-wheel drive launch.
You're gonna fist me. We'll get into why this engine is better than what you'd find in a Tremor, even though it's technically the same engine, because it's not. But, oh no, foot down a little bit. Here we go. It's a bit wet. Come on, baby. Come on.
That's not terrible.
Don't arc up on me, bro. Come on.
Oh, it's slowing down. Come on.
It doesn't feel like it.
Keep going. Whoa, dude, I don't remember getting under 10 seconds in a Ranger.
Okay, I'll tell you why in a second, Jacob, but we got 9.55 seconds here.
Pretty good.
In the Ranger Tremor, which technically has the same engine, but has Euro emissions tuning to it, we got 13.3. My knee.
The specialist timing gear takes its revenge.
Anyway, alrighty, let's drive this thing normally.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, friend.
In another bloody Ford Ranger for like the 20th time.
Oh man, I feel like this is my second home at this point, you know what I mean?
100%, I could live in this thing.
But it does get a benefit over the Ford Ranger Tremor, the special edition I just reviewed. And that is...
How was that, by the way?
Oh, it was right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, the review will be out, so check it out. I guess I'll link it down below.
I guess I'll check it out.
This one here, it comes with essentially a better version of that engine. You see, that is the same engine. It's a 2-litre bi-turbo 4-cylinder engine. It's the only one that you can get here in this black edition of the base model XL, which is actually a good thing because the single turbo, let me mention that, Jacob,
is quite underpowered.
Yeah, 125 kilowatt, 405 newton meters through a 6-speed automatic transmission. This is 154 kilowatt of power, 500 newton meters of torque.
The full fat.
Oh no, don't die. we're good.
It's a little scary in a Ranger.
And that is better than what you'll find in some of these special editions like the TREMOR or the Wildtrak X, because they actually come with a Euro 6 compliant engine version.
Bloody emission standards, bro.
Actually cuts down the kilowatt. On paper, it's only 4 kilowatt, but in practice, it feels so much slower. And also, you have to add AdBlue to that as well. Whereas this, good old DPF, baby.
Hell yeah, we love DPFs sometimes.
I don't know if we do. Foot down. You actually get a really healthy, decent amount of power and torque.
Good.
And you notice that especially in this one, because it is the base model and because it is like the lightest version of all the 4x4 dual cabs.
But it's not really a base model.
It doesn't feel like it.
No, because you get the alloys, you get, you know, the all-terrain tires. It feels a lot better.
It does. But it does mean that you get things like part-time four-wheel drive. So, for example, on a sealed surface like this, we're only driving as a rear-wheel drive. Sure, would it be better to have the permanent four-wheel drive?
Definitely.
Absolutely. But you can get that in the higher trims of the Ranger, and at least you can get it unlike HiLux, where no matter how much you spend, you are stuck with a part-time four-wheel drive system, or even the Isuzu D-Max. Oh no.
Gone for a bit of a stroll this morning.
Oh, this is the weirdo. I'll tell you what though, it handles pretty damn well.
It handles like a Ranger, I would say.
Yeah, but honestly better than what you'd find on the base model.
Yes.
With the Steelies, even though this is the same base model and it's actually cheaper than the normal.
You know what? I think that's kind of just an admission from Ford. Like, hey, guys, we kind of up with our pricing, but here you go. Here's 1,500 limited editions, and just go buy them instead.
Go buy them instead. And honestly, it's the better for it because the alloy wheels, it just means it has a lighter unsprung mass. That is the mass not carried by the wheels, essentially. And so it's just better at cornering. Is it amazing at cornering?
It's a bloody Ranger.
It's a Ranger, but it is top of the class, 100% in terms of its ride and handling.
Apart from maybe an Amarok.
Yeah, which is under the skin based on the exact same car. Alrighty, friend, but here we are at Thorthie Corner.
Saucy bloody corner.
Actually,
it's a little bit wet.
I want to tell you about one of the benefits while we do this. Versus, I'll tickle my little pickle. Here we go. Versus Ranger TREMOR that I reviewed. So that had Bilstein dampers with external reservoirs. This has the regular Ranger dampers, which honestly are just more comfortable on road. Like this actually doesn't feel, oh no.
Bloody Tokyo drift around here, bro.
I don't know if I want to do that around Saucy Corner. Okay, hairpin numero duo.
Yeah, with that part-time four-wheel drive, you've got to be very careful.
100%. But it is, oh no, it's a kangaroo.
That is a huge kangaroo.
Oh God, it slipped. But yes, this thing rides, frankly, really, really well. The whole rear end isn't jittering around like it did in the Ranger TREMOR, and that's just because it's so well settled and sorted, and there's no weight in the back. So this just feels super duper comfy. Safety systems.
That is the only downside of getting an XL, is you do miss out on that full travel assist kind of thing that you get in the Ford Ranger, pretty much everything above the XL.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a shame. You know, in terms of comfort, it is good, but you do miss out on having the full lane centering.
Yeah, you do get the adaptive cruise control, so that's fine. Other than that, man.
I don't know, man. It's a base model Ranger with a couple of extra frills, and I'm all here for it.
Yeah, it's actually quite a nice car to drive around, not gonna lie.
It's a workhorse at the end of the day, so it doesn't need to be the craziest thing in terms of tech, but I think it's still great. I think it's still class leading.
Alrighty, let's get to our final thoughts.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, Jacob. Final thoughts on the Ford Ranger, the POV Spec XL Black
I think
Edition.
I know where this is going, bro.
Let me tell you where it's going. I think that absolutely you can get a cheaper ute, a lot of cheaper utes actually. But if you are looking for that workhorse spec tradie style ute, but you still want that really premium driving experience, then the Black Edition is a far better value proposition, in my opinion, than the regular XL. It's kind of a no-brainer, and really, I just kind of wish this was the XL.
It really should be.
Yeah, especially at that drive-away pricing. It makes total sense. There is probably one more premium feeling ute at this price point. That would be the Volkswagen Amarok Core, but that does come with the single turbo version of this engine and is actually more expensive drive away. So to me, this kind of just makes a lot of sense. Having said that, you would be remiss to not check out like a base spec Isuzu D-Max, to be honest, because look,
it's a lot cheaper.
It is cheaper. But of course, if you do want to buy one of these, especially before stock runs out, head to carsauce.com/buy. My team will get you the absolute best price possible with cars that are actually in stock. All right, Jacob, ciao for now.
Bye-bye.